Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to my messy workbench as usual. Today I decided I'd show you all my package, so without further ado, let me just show you my package. Actually, I've got two packages, a small one and a large one. Yeah, I didn't get a huge amount of sleep last night due to terrible weather conditions and just general things not being that great, so yeah, my sense of humour isn't on top form today. You could say it's kind of wallowing in the gutter somewhere, and probably should be washed away without further ado. Anyway, um, I've got two things. I've got some stuff from Farnell, or as they're now called, Element 14. I really don't know why they changed the name. It was all a bit weird, but anyway, these are some parts which I bought to fix something else, and this is a packet of, well, it's a packet of electronic converter ICs, apparently. 1-14B4. That's not what I ordered. I ordered some transistors. But considering that Chinese customs forms on these sort of things generally don't have any kind of relevance whatsoever to the contents of the package, um, I'm not surprised. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what's actually in here, to see if they are in fact the transistors I ordered, and if they are in fact fake. Um, I needed some transistors, and they're kind of obsolete and hard to get, and the cheapest place to find them was Aliexpress for about $2 for 5 of them or something. Um, I know it's a terrible thing to try and go to there and try and get anything. You're very likely to get fakes or knockoffs or just general garbage. But for $2, I thought, well, I have bought some ICs from there before. I have bought some buck converter ICs from a motherboard I repaired, and they actually worked fine. So, and it was kind of the only place I could get them. So, they're not the worst place. It's just not really the first thing to go for if you can help it. So instead of bothering to actually find a decent substitute for the transistor I needed, and because the application for it wasn't a highly critical thing, it's pretty basic circuitry, I figured it probably wouldn't really matter if these things weren't that great, so I just decided to get some cheap ones, and if they're really terrible, if they don't work, or if they're complete fakes or lumps of metal, just junk, then, well, it's only $2 and you can have the fun of laughing at me. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, just hide my address there, but you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm not sure if this thing will actually focus. I think it takes a bit of a time to figure out. I'm trying to get it to focus on something, but there we go. I mean, electronic converter ICs from China or Singapore or somewhere. Anyway, I'm not actually sure. I think it says Singapore on it, but yeah, as far as I know, it was supposed to be China, but whatever. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure what that means. 549 times 1, 549 SSL? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. I'll open this one first because I'll change, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll change camera angles for the smaller one because it'll fit in the shot better, and if I do this one first, it's the boring one, and we'll get that out of the way, and yeah, so this won't be that exciting. If you've ever purchased anything from Farnell or that lot before, I believe in Europe they're called Newark, and maybe in America they're called Allied Electronics. It's all the same thing, I believe, pretty much. Something like that, anyway. Okay, so we get the typical thing. They usually wrap everything in bubble wrap, which is nice. And we've got some bits and pieces. Now, of course, this is interesting because we can compare the dodgy Chinese packet to the professionally wrapped thing. So for a start, we got some good bubble wrap. It's sent through a decent courier service, and of course, all the semiconductors and all that you need are inside actual anti-static bags. They're all inside. I'm not sure you can see, but they're all inside the protective plastic tubes. So they're not going to get squashed. They're not going to get ESD damage. Everything is pretty much professionally done, as you'd expect from a proper component distributor. And you've got everything there. It's just, parts, transistors, capacitors, all that sort of thing. Nothing particularly exciting there. And of course they print out a receipt and have all the stuff there, so that's great. And sometimes they put things in boxes, so I'm not entirely sure why. But hey, it's all pretty good. It's all well packaged. It's all got the right sort of stuff. But we will see, as a comparison to the Chinese one, the cheap no-name supplier from, well, Singapore or China or somewhere, I'm not entirely sure where, but $2 stuff, and we'll see the differences between that and the professional stuff. So yeah, I mean it's just, yeah, it's a much better idea to buy from proper distributors. You get stuff that is actually genuine. You're going to know what it is. You get all the proper packaging and all that. So go there first if you can, or DigiKey if you're in America, or Mauser or whatever. Yeah, so I'll just put that away, and we'll open this one and see the difference. And I might switch camera angles, possibly, I'm not sure, because you probably can't see a lot of this right here. It's probably too far. I'll swap this around and get some better detail. Okay then, so we've got a close-up of the dodgy Chinese package, and obviously I've turned it upside down so you can't see my address and stalk me, which would be a bit weird. So, I'll just, let's see, how should I do this? I'll cut the thing open, just like the other one. And we shall see what is inside. So, first of all, the little yellow package is actually bubble wrapped inside slightly. It's got bubble lining, which is nice. I mean, you've got that. That's going to provide some protection to the components. But yeah, anyway, we'll see what is in here. So what have we got? We've got a plastic bag, and we have some transistor-y looking things. And I can't actually remember how many I ordered. Obviously, it wasn't 5, because there seem to be about 20 here. In fact, let's count them. Wow, that sounded interesting. Sounded like someone trying to drive their car through the side of the curb. Okay, well, that's fun. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, possibly 21? I don't know. Maybe I miscounted. Not sure. Okay, well, that's great. Hopefully I did order 5 and now I've got 20, because that'd be pretty funny. But there we go. Not what was it? Electronic converter ICs. Not electronic converter ICs at all. Hopefully. See if we can get a ID on the part. But I mean, here we go. I mean, things are no anti-static packaging, bare minimum of bubble wrap. It's not ideal. These things should really be in a tube. They should be in anti-static packaging. It's not the best thing. So if I can just make out what's actually on these. A1023, well, they've got the correct marking on them, but of course that doesn't really mean much when you're talking about stuff from China or Aliexpress or wherever they came from, because unfortunately there are a lot of fakes around. So yeah, anyway, but hey, they are in fact transistors, or at least they are in fact 3-terminal electronic components. Well, they look like them, and they have the right label on them, so it's a good start, isn't it? So let's just do a quick test here. Okay, so now I've got the multimeter here, and I've set it to diode test mode. And to test a bipolar junction transistor, it's quite simple, or at least to just verify that it is in fact some kind of transistor, and that it's not shorted, and all that sort of thing, and not open circuit either. So we can check the we can check it like that. It's a very basic test. It's not going to tell you usually if the transistor is leaky. It won't tell you if it won't tell you the gain. It won't tell you, if there are other things wrong with it. I mean, to check it completely, you'd need to apply the rated voltages and check the gain and make sure that everything actually matches up with the datasheet. But as a basic test, just to see if the thing is in fact a transistor and that it's not a lump of metal. I've seen the. I remember, I think it was it SparkFun or Adafruit, one of those companies, bought a whole reel of, I think, some sort of driver chip or microcontroller or something, and they picked some cheap dealer from China or something that they hadn't bought from before, and turned out the whole reel was just a bunch of epoxy encapsulated lumps of iron or copper or something. So they weren't even ICs, they were just complete fakes. You can get that sort of thing. It doesn't happen a huge amount of the time. If you make sure you buy from sellers that have been on the site. I mean, this guy I purchased from, I can't remember the seller's name now, but they'd been on there for 3 years. They had 99 point something positive feedback. So, you get an idea that they're probably going to be okay, but, it's always a good idea to test things out before you try them in an actual circuit. Anyway, so if I am to measure between the base and emitter and base and collector, we can see I should get a diode drop voltage. So if I put one lead here and one lead here, we get about 580 millivolts between these two legs, and that makes sense because that's about what you'd expect. And I try the other lead there, we also get another drop. So it shows us that the transistor is in fact operating as a transistor. Well, it's operating as two back-to-back diodes. It proves that anyway. So I can check between the collector and emitter with the directly. We should get nothing, and we get nothing, which is good. So if I try that the other way around, we should also get nothing. And again we get nothing. So, no funny business there. The thing basically does test out as a transistor, and I can also check the junctions backwards as well. So we get nothing here, and we get nothing there. So the thing is basically testing as a transistor, and as you'd expect. And of course we can quickly test the gain on these things as well, just to see if they are actually functioning as a transistor. So if I plug one of these in to the transistor checking socket thing, we can see it does in fact have gain of 211. This is the Y variant of the transistor, which the datasheet specs as a gain of 120 to 240. So this is within the limits, and it is actually functional. So we can try a few other ones just to see how that goes. Oops. Just check a few. 208. I mean, obviously they're not going to be exactly the same, but they're all so far seem to be quite similar. Alright, this one. 209. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. So there we go. I mean, they do appear to actually be PNP transistors. They do amplify, they do they do something. Kind of hard to say exactly whether or not they are perfect to the datasheet or not. Without a curve tracer and all that sort of stuff, it's hard to say. But I would guess that for what they are, for what I'm doing, I'll just put them in circuit and find out. Okay, so I guess that's about it for this video. There's not really much else to say except the fact that I wouldn't advise you actually buy these. I mean, I know that sounds a bit weird seeing as I bought some, but my reasoning, which may or may not be dodgy, is the fact that I'm going to be using one of these in a fan controller and a power supply. In fact, it's the Dell power supply that I was repairing earlier, so this will go into that. Again, it only has to switch 12 volts for a fan. It only has to handle about 300 milliamps, so it should be fine. No high frequency stuff, no real issues with signal integrity, and these things do, at least the gain meets the spec in the datasheet, so really it's probably fine. I can't really imagine what could go wrong with these. Yeah, well, who knows, but they're probably okay. The datasheet does rate them as a 100 milliamp collector current, and they can dissipate about a watt apparently. So I suppose I could hook them up on a breadboard or something and actually test them to their rated current and see if they melt or not. But they're probably fine. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend these for an audio amplifier though. I know a lot of people like to restore and repair old amps from like the 70s or the 80s, and they often use a lot of Japanese transistors in them which are obsolete now. And yeah, you can usually go on eBay or Aliexpress or other Chinese places and you can get copies of the original ones, but these will be nowhere near as good for audio applications, and I really don't recommend it. Just search around on forums and you can see that most people that have tried cheap ones like this, it hasn't worked out very well. Best case they've found is that the audio quality is usually garbage, and worst case the amplifier can go into oscillations and burn out. So yeah, don't advise you to use these for anything like that or anything super critical, but for turning a fan on and off, well, I don't think it's going to matter. And I could have bought, a proper substitute. I mean, I could have trawled through the data sheets and found something that was close enough, but I was lazy and I wanted to see just how dodgy some dodgy transistors from Aliexpress might be. And turns out maybe they're not so dodgy after all, but maybe we'll find out when I actually test it out for real, and then we'll know really how dodgy they are. But these do seem to work. They do seem to be PNP transistors, they do seem to have gain, they amplify, all that, so probably be okay for me anyway. Not really much else I can say on that. Yeah, I mean, if you are restoring an amplifier, if you're repairing something like that, if you can't find the exact replacements, well, maybe some second-hand ones, new old stock would be a best bet. They will be expensive, but they're more likely to actually work. And sometimes you can find, modern equivalents that will be just as good. Might be harder to find a modern equivalent because there's so many parameters you might have to check in that, but the internet's always full of good advice and information and that sort of thing, so well it can be full of good advice and information if you look in the right places. Anyway, I'm sure this has gone on for far too long, so I shall end it here, and I shall say that we'll come back next time when we test these things out and see if it actually works. But for now, I'll probably just leave that here and see how it goes. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learnt something about testing transistors if you didn't already know how to do that. There's probably a million videos out there that explain it better than I did, because I didn't really explain it at all. And I hope you enjoyed looking at my package. So see you next time.